Chapter 22. Memories of Meh Brisket. Burnt, anemic, minuscule steaks was Joshua's idea of eating kosher growing up in the hilly, pine tree rich, colonial, and Tudor line streets of Edgemont, New York. Sure, his converted mother made brisket on a special occasion for Rosh Hashanah, cooked in margarine but not butter, because of the rule prohibiting mixing dairy and meat, accompanied with a killer, sultry yet sweet, onion-based brownish, teetering on burgundy red gravy, which beat kosher ground meat, burger minus the melted Land O'Lakes American cheese on top any day of the week. Understand, Joshua's mother was a good converted Jewish wife who found the time to make kosher prepared meals, ready to be served around 6:30 p.m. almost every night, even after she started commuting to the big city again to work as a high-ranking loan officer for J.P. Morgan Chase in their corporate office in Midtown Manhattan, which was no easy feat to pull off. Still, Joshua felt a tinge of sadness on his mom's behalf when she recently asked him what was his favorite meal growing up, which had nothing to do with his dad's hurried half-assed scrambled eggs on some random Saturday morning before basketball practice, before more hamstring-tightening suicide drills ensued. If Joshua was weird on more than just peanut butter and jelly sandwiches throughout elementary school and got off his ass to jog around the local track instead of trying to win Metroid on Nintendo or beat Mike Tyson in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out one more time than others could, his hamstrings wouldn't have felt like mint jelly after running suicide drills his first day of basketball practice, seeped in mineral ice all over either. But now that Joshua was a parent of 3, in charge of getting his kids breakfast and lunches ready every day before school, and realized there's only so much time in a day to be a do-it-all dad or mom, especially when you make the extra effort to make all of your kids' dish creations for their pescatarian weird kids with love, so Joshua could inspire more yummy dances from his kids as they all run around the kitchen table through the adjoining living room and back, declaring with soul-glowing glee, "Best daddy ever!" or simply proclaim, "This is so yummy, I don't want to stop eating," to run around the kitchen yelling, "Best daddy ever!" Making homemade hummus sandwiches for his kids with ground-up sesame seeds in place of pre-made, always chalky-tasting tahini, fresh lemon squeezes throughout, in addition to generous heaps of salt, and a diced-up garlic bulb thrown in between, in addition to a vibrant pinch of fresh grated carrots on top of good old country white bread, was the least Joshua could do for his kids' non-stop playful radiance, around the clock, shrieks of joy, and total acceptance, support, and belief in their aspirational do-it-all daddy becoming a big deal American writer-comedian one day. Using just pre-sliced cheddar slices for his kids' peach jam sandwiches on old-school country white bread wasn't good enough for Joshua, regardless if those cheese slices were sliced and shipped from the Gabat Cheese Company in Vermont. No, Joshua insisted on not circumcising his children's collective, endlessly budding happiness one bit by foregoing the easy half-ass route in favor of taking only a couple of extra minutes to bust out the good old cheese shredder and grate some seriously sharp Vermont cheddar from Gabat for his kids' peach and cheddar sandwiches on country white bread that morning, because he knew it imparted a juicier, fresher, more delectable, highly superior bite. Plus, Joshua incorporated feedback from his kids when Mama just plopped the pre-cut cheddar on instead, realizing the extra effort always paid off. God is in the details, is what Joshua would sear into his children's creatively jacked craniums ad nauseum, which he picked up from a book on songwriting by the legendary scribe Stephen Sondheim before his bundles of happiness spewing joy were born. God is in the details, which explains why Joshua took tremendous pride in his headline hooker prowess on display when the Goodman Project published a myriad of 24 of his blogs on parenting this past year, encapsulating the true definition of clickbait, including such A-plus titles such as My Clown Origin Story, written after the new Joker film, What Gen X Parents Understand, Wishing My Son's Birthday Never Blows, Children Are Family Upgrades, Pride on My Side, The Last Self-Loving Jewish New Yorker, Born Again, Newborn Dads. Alright, fine, the last title is a tad long-winded, confusing, but you should get the gist by now. God is in the details. Further evidence by the tremendous knockus he received from getting his son's social security card in the mail reading Arthur Morrison Kornbluth. Understand the Yiddish word knockus is exclusively used to describe the swelling of sweet, prideful emotion a Jewish parent derives from their kids' accomplishments, like getting into Cornell, or like acceptance, or Billy Crystal signing on to do a movie with your infinitely less talented dweebier seed of a son. But not every Jewish dad, native New Yorker or not, has the gall to name their firstborn Arthur Morrison Kornbluth after the most charismatic dark prince of poetry rock, who's easier on the eyes than Patti Smith ever was, that being Jim motherfucking Mojo Rising Morrison. Plus, similar to the self-proclaimed Lizard King, Joshua wasn't one to follow the rules of so-called normal, waspy, lobotomized, monotone, you to fucking death bourgeois behavior either, knowing he wouldn't hesitate to break conversation with his old-school recruiter bud Gary mid-stride while passing the corporate office of J.P. Morgan, only to hail down the great comedy writer, actor, and operator of the Triumph, the insult dog, Robert Schmigel, and proclaim, "Hey Schmigel, next time you see Sandler, tell him to put you in more of his films already." Joshua always loved Schmigel's brief cameos in Adam Sandler's films, like him playing the Borophyll science teacher in Billy Madison, or the once aspirational hand model turned cell phone salesman in Don't Mess with the Zohan. But Joshua didn't stop there, feeling the compulsory need to impress Schmigel with new shtick, fresh off the press, so Schmigel would feel extra blessed. Joshua noticed Schmigel wearing a Brooklyn Nets hat and says, "I thought you were a Knicks fan." Schmigel, "I used to live with my girlfriend, now wife on Park Slope, Brooklyn, ages ago, back when Lena Dunham had much skinnier arms and wasn't so full of herself. I'm a father of two now, just named my son Arthur Morrison Kornbluth. For a moment I considered giving him the middle name Brooks in honor of the great Albert Brooks, but then I changed my mind because I didn't want to give my son the permission to be a Jewish pussy." Schmigel laughs out loud, "Long time!" In the end, Joshua pitched his impossible to remember website of old, deardada.com, without a business card to share at the moment. Being an oasis of organization was never Joshua's forte, but fearlessly bombarding famous actors, headliner established stand-up comedians, and WGA represented writers was. Sometimes his cold calling, conjuring, celebrity reach-outs didn't always materialize so smoothly. Once Joshua was with some old high school buds after having a couple of J&B scotches on the rocks in his system, Rodney Dangerfield's preferred, reasonably priced scotch of choice, and bum rushes the comics comic Dave Attell outside the Comedy Cellar, smoking a cigarette with one of his black comic buds Joshua didn't recognize and still doesn't, considering he never thought enough of him to remember his name afterwards, despite him delivering the far superior laugh line to anything Joshua uttered during this punch-drunk love wannabe makeout session with the personification of zero bullshit cool Dave Attell. Joshua goes into this legendary roundabout summation of Dave Attell's career going, "I knew you were doing late night sets at the Cellar for 10 years at 2 in the morning in front of two sailors in town for a fleet week if Allen Ginsberg hadn't tied them up captive in his rent-controlled apartment in the East Village just yet, blah, blah, blah." Then finally, without flinching, Attell says in a ball-busting yet strangely uncomfortable manner, "Thanks a lot, Ryan Seacrest," which still makes Joshua laugh long time to this day, making him realize the highly underappreciated, undercelebrated talent of distilling the bare-bones funny essence of a moment in real life with such razor-sharp crystal clarity. Only a battle-hardened 300 shows a year comic can fart out at will when the moment calls for it, like the great Dave Attell just did. But again, the best line of this evening was uttered by Dave Attell's black comic friend sitting next to him outside the Cellar, who, after taking in Joshua's long-winded career retrospective suck-off homage of Dave Attell's career, his black comic friend says, "What am I, chopped liver?" It was impossible for Joshua to not reflect on these random encounters with the upper crust of Jewish entertainers on the island of Manhattan as he stared on the menu at the Polo Lounge. Sitting across from Silicon Alley executive search owner Esther, Spike Lee enters the bar. Joshua scrolls through the menu, Not seeing much to order outside of buckets of caviar, knowing a corned beef on marble rye with melted Swiss wasn't going to cut it either, since Joshua decided to be a more stylish, proper mensch and fear God's wrath for not sticking with his God-commanded kosher diet, despite this law meaning bullshit to fake news good guy guardians of morality like Bill Maher, who never would have been accused of pussy grabbing in the age of Me Too because he's only 4'2".